Hello everyone, welcome back again. So today we are going to talk about and we'll understand what is resource planning. So if you want to know the previous part of this chapter, then you just go with the description box, you'll get the link of that. Now we'll start with a resource planning. So what is resource planning is? So the term itself says everything. A planning for resource, how to use it for the process of development. Now planning is a strategy, it's a technique which we are going to implement in the resource, how we use the resource, how we extract the resource and use it for the process of development. Now, why do we need a resource planning? A resource planning is important so that we can use it in a judicious way for the process of development, not the growth, but the development. A sustainable development, a balanced development from all sides, from all sphere, economical, social, political, and cultural. So planning is widely accepted strategy, that's why, because it helps us to do our work, to achieve our goal, achieve our target in a very, very effective way. So for judicious use of our resources, and thus it has importance in our country like India. Why India? So the question comes from here, that resource planning is needed in India. Why? Particularly India, why? So with an example, you have to justify it. You have to give the answer for this. You have to give the explanation. So it has importance in a country like India because India is a diverse country with diverse resources. Culturally, if we say it's a diverse country, culturally diverse country, from north to south, east to west, we see a different culture in our human community. Even if we go with the resources also, a diverse type of resources we have, but it is not in a distributed in a uniform way. From north to south, east to west, if we go and see the type of resources, they are not same. If we come to the western side, wind and solar energy, it is in abundant form, but water resources, it is lacking of. But if we come to the northeastern states, there we find a water resource in an abundant form, but not a solar and wind energy is more effective here. So thus, to bring a sustainable development country like India, we have to go with the proper resource planning so that each and every community, each and every part of a country, of a territory, of a world can acquire the resources for a growth, for a development. So there are regions which are rich in certain types. Just now I have given the example. We'll just go through this. Types of resources but are deficient in some other resources. There are some regions which can be considered self-sufficient in terms of the availability of resources, and there are some regions which have acute shortage of vital types of resources. Just now we have taken example of Rajasthan as well as the northeastern states. So for example, here also given some examples, the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, they are very rich in mineral resources and the coal deposits. Arunachal Pradesh, on the other hand, abundance of water resources but lack in infrastructure because of its physiography. Physiography, it is a particular place where we can develop the tourism. But other places, it is very difficult to develop a tourism there because they are rich in other resources. So this infrastructural development, and the state like Rajasthan is very well endowed with solar and wind energy but lacks in water resources. The cold desert of Ladakh, they are relatively isolated from the rest of the country. So people find it difficult to reach there. And thus, it is lacking of development because human plays a very important role in the process of development. We have already gone through that human with their skills and intelligence, they convert a raw material into a valuable finished product. So if they are unreachable to that particular place, then development is lacking off. So the cold desert of Ladakh is relatively isolated from the rest of the country, and it has very rich cultural heritage, of course, no doubt on it, but it is deficient in water and infrastructure and some vital minerals. So this calls a balanced resource planning at the national, state, regional and local level. So that's why we need a planning so that we can bring a balance national, state, that means from each level, from ground level to the upper level, we can bring a uniform development, a uniformity in their changes. Now, as we have said that resource planning, like India, it is very important. So now we particularly go with that how the resource planning is done in India. What is the process of going with the resource planning in India so that we can bring a uniformity in the process of development, a sustainable development. Now, resource planning, it is a very complex process which involves number of stages. The first stage, that is the identification and the inventory of resources across the regions of the country. So first, if we need to go with the resource planning, because a planning which is related to resources, we need to find out, we need to identify that what type of resources are available in which place. And thus, we need to collect the data about the resources which are available in that particular place. So this involves surveying. So how we'll identify, how we'll come to know that what type of resources are available in which place. For that, we need to go for a survey. We need to visit to that particular place. Field survey is important. Then do the mapping and the quality and the quantity estimation and measurement of the resources. So after that, after mapping, then we need to find out what is the quality and what is the quantity of a type of resource is available and do the measurement of that resources. Then second stage involves the planning structure endowed with appropriate technology. That means what type of technology is available, is needed to be there to extract that amount of resource, a type of, say, mineral. If we take an example to do the mining and extract a type of mineral, then we have to see that what type of technology is needed for that. The skill, a human intelligence is very important there because they will do all the processing from tip to toe. They are the inventor of technology. They can handle the technology. With their brain only, they can minimize the wastages of minerals when they are going for the extraction. So this skillful human resources, then an institutional setup for managing the whole process. We need an institutional setup so that the process can be done in a very proper way. Wastage cannot be there. No extraction can we go with the wastage because we are going with a planning to achieve a sustainable use, a sustainable development. Next stage, the third stage involves, after going with that, after completion of first two stages, we'll move on to the third stage, matching the resource development plans with overall national development plans. That means whatever the investment we are going to take on from first to end after taking out the raw material from the nature till the processing, whatever the investment is taken place, or it is going to match with a profitable one at the end for the nation? We have to match this. So then only we can proceed with the planning. So these are the three different stages which are involved in the process of resource planning in any country. But basically we talk about India because India is of diverse nature with diverse resources. Now, in this regard, India has made a concerted efforts for achieving our goals for resource planning right from the first 5-year plan. So, after getting independence, India started its first planning to come with a sustainable development because Britishers left us in a very destructive way. And thus, to overcome with that, the government of India, they thought about go with the resource planning, and from the first 5-year planning, they have started the initiative to take it and bring a sustainable development in a country economically, politically, and socially, even the culturally also. And thus, the availability of resources is a necessary condition for the development of any region. So with that thought, they need to find out that what type of resources are available in which region and how we can extract it and use it for the developmental process. But mere availability of resources in the absence of corresponding changes in technology and institution may hinder development. But it is also a question that resources, if it is available there, whether we have a technology and institution, a better sophisticated technology is there or not to extract that resources as well as the institution to manage the whole process is available there or not. So along with the availability of resources, these two other elements are also important, that is the technology and institution. Without that, we cannot bring a sustainable development because these three elements, they are interrelated with each other. So there are many regions in our country that are rich in resources, but these are included in economically backward countries or backward regions. If we take an example of a country by ourselves, then we see that the agriculturally, Orissa is well benefited by the nature, but it is a backward state. But if we come to Punjab and Haryana, resources are not available, a fertile soil is not available, but they are rich in agriculture production. Why? Because of technology and the institution which is available there in Punjab and Haryana, which is not there in Orissa. They are time to time affected by the nature, the disasters, and thus, in spite of having a resource, they are backward regions. And on the other hand, if we see Punjab and Haryana, in spite of lacking of resources, they are a economically developed states because of the availability of technology and institutions. Thus, these three elements are important. That is, the resources, availability of resources, technology, and institutions. So, alone the resource cannot bring a development. For that, we need a institution as well as a technology. So, here we have a question. Can you name some resource rich but economically backward regions and some resource poor but economically developed regions? Give reasons for such a situation. So already we have discussed about that. So I think it will be easy for you to give the answer now. Now come to the past, how the economic condition of our country was. So the history of colonization reveals, yes, so when Britishers were there in India at that time, we see that to grow, Britishers, they become a destructive towards Indian resource. So they make India a colony. They came to India as invaders, as traders, and thus they settled here. But after seeing the resources which are available there in our country and make themselves rich. So It was primarily the higher level of technological. So they were the Britishers who bring the technology to India to extract the resources. Before Britishers came also, the resources were present there, but the Indians, they were unable to use the resources there to make them economically stronger. But it was the Britishers who bring the technology. With the help of a technology, they use the resources, they extract the resources and make themselves economically stronger one. So this, in spite of having a resources, it is very important that technology needed to be there. So therefore, resources can contribute to develop only when they are accompanied by appropriate technology. So underline this part. Development and institutional changes. So India has experienced all this in different phases of colonization. So they have experienced number of things during the colonization process or colonization time. So therefore, in India, the development or economically is one of the major objective for the government to come out with that issue. That is the social economic issue that prevailed there in India, which is created by the Britishers. So development in general and resource development in particular does not only involve the availability of the resources, but also the technology, quality of human resources, and the historical experiences which brings people of India to go with a good experience and do the planning to get a better India. So this is the end of the topic today, and now we'll just recap the things and then we'll find out the questions which are important from here. So we have studied today that what is resource planning and why the resource planning is important basically in India. How the process of planning is taken place, that means the different stages of planning, resource planning we have gone through. And these are the main topics from where the question comes. That is, what are the different stages, why the resource planning in India, it is important, and what is resource planning. So these are the important questions from this particular part. So thank you, bye-bye. We'll see you in the next part.